that we are going to have a very vibrant question and answer session that is going to actually show we have now differed from what we do, because it's a classroom session. If she comes, she will talk, you listen. Those of you who came and you write a few points, and unfortunately our students don't write any points down, and even as you can see, we came with notebooks, because it is later you will look at it and you will say, yeah, she talked about something. Can I read something deeper about sustainability in the classroom? Can I understand my role as a learner, my role as a knowledge consumer? We never question our role as knowledge consumers, and because we don't question our roles as knowledge consumers, we do not engage the knowledge provider as it should be, and that too speaks to sustainability. Because if you're not challenging me as the knowledge provider, and you're consuming anything I bring, you're consuming, tomorrow, the people of tomorrow will not have a better standard, because you who was consuming and me who was producing, we didn't engage ourselves for sustainability. And with that, I just want to end my remarks and say, congratulations, Dr. Bilia. Publishing in Springer Nature is a big deal, and we pray that the School of Education, now that you're the people who have opened this door, I know there are those of our science people, but they never came to give us a public lecture about it. We want to say congratulations. And we pray that you continue in those steps, hold the hands of these young learners, because even in university rankings, how we involve our undergraduates in research contributes to the positioning of our universities. I was checking somewhere and I saw Kisii University, we are number 26,000 out of how many universities that are ranked. Don't worry, but we are somewhere. At least our name features. So the only thing we need to do is to make sure, and we say we have been brought up in a generation of competition and comparison. So if I'm not looking at professor, I'm comparing. So professor, I'm not looking at me and how I can make a better version of me. I'm just thinking of, so now professor is here. I'm really looking at how do I beat him? And that does not speak to sustainability. Tomorrow, prof is not there. My motivation for doing anything is done. And then tomorrow, what level of society do we have? Because we don't have whom we are competing with or comparing with, but the comparison should be me, a better version of me, a better value-centered individual, a better value-led individual, a better value-motivated individual. Because that speaks to sustainability, the kind of values we have. And that we can talk about it many, many ways, because you find society, we have issues and we say, why are Kenyans so corrupt? That issue of value-centeredness, and it is built in our learning, in our academia, and in our institutions. So I wish you a very good listening, but as I end, I want to take this opportunity and say the lady I'm bringing to you is a scholar. She's a PhD in research and evaluation in education. So she's accomplished in her area, and one of the things that is her forte is sustainability issues, and that's why that paper must have been very well written. I will take this point to tell you that students, for you to get your paper published in such an reputable journal, the peer review process was very thorough, implying that there are people, the top scholars, those universities, close your eyes and name any of them, you'll find that I was looking at the list of editors for the paper, and I said, oh, there are very nice universities represented here. Those that you think, and then there's something we never talk about. Across the world, there are things that are chinyamaj, using that colloquial term. Race is one of those things people never say loudly, but there are places you can't publish even when they know that your race, the place where you come from in the globe. You know we have the global north and the global, and then we have the developed countries, and we have the, hey students, this one you should tell me. We have the developed countries and we have then we have the least developed, and then you know what? Africa has the largest population of scholars, but our works in international reputable journals like this Springer is only 2%. 2%. What does that imply? There are so many things that play out. And so when we are talking about Dr. Bilia Gisore's achievement, you can see it in the light of that. Because even these things, I know a friend, their paper could not be published when he put in his paper with his own name that was not easy to pronounce. Then you bring in your supervisor, who is from a university that is in the global north, and immediately the same paper with no changes gets published. So for her to stand out as an individual in a paper that comes from the global south, in an international reputable journal, is a break we call of a glass ceiling. These are things that are put there. People never see them, but for you to break that and just find yourself above it is a great achievement, and we thank you. Kudos for that. So I've told you that her research interests include climate change issues, sustainability matters, and inclusive education. I want to thank you, and I praise students. Look at her area. She's in education psychology. But did you hear me saying she's in psychology? And that is where a public lecture is important. You can know that you can diversify and you can still be of benefit in your area. Welcome, Dr. Gisore. We will burst our eardrums. Please try and balance that. So I pray that we all be attentive and take our notes, because I've said for a public lecture, the difference is integrate, digest, and give us feedback through your questions as we progress. Thank you so much.
Wow. What do I say? Let me begin by saying thank you very much, Dr. Stella, for the intro. Thank you very much for attending this public session. I'm honored to have you here. Thank you, Dean, for gracing the occasion. And all protocols observed, I'll introduce myself. Nothing different from what has been said, but in a way that I want you to know who is standing before you, especially for our students. I know students have heard of Dr. Bilia Gisore, who is very strict because she doesn't want things done upside down. This is that person you've been wondering, who is that person we can't get around? Because I always try to do things the right way. This is me. And as you've been told, I'm from the School of Education. My dean is here, thank you very much. And maybe, if I may mention, my interest in emerging issues could be grounded in my background. For those of you who don't know, I'm from geography. Only that I left geography as I was getting into my PhD and went fully into education, but I'm a trained geography teacher. So these things make a lot of sense to me when we talk about them. At the same time, I realize that in life, we can run, but we can't hide. Some things we have to confront them as they come. We have to talk about them. Like it or not, there are issues that you have to talk about. And whom am I? I look at myself as a 21st century teacher. And if I'm a 21st century teacher, there are things that 21st century teachers hold dear, And some of them are going to come here in the presentation. One of them is interdisciplinarity. It's a key factor in this. And I realize that I'm dealing with 21st century students as well, who cannot be taught in the way we were taught. We have to change the way we reach out to our students. We have to change the way we interact with our students, because they are going to be our change agents. So it is not business as usual. And the way we look at things generally has to change. So welcome to my public lecture. And at the end of the day, I'm hoping that you'll pick at least one thing. If not all of them will make sense, one thing that will talk to you. Let me not go through the content. We are going to interact with it. Now, I hope the photos are visible. If you look at what we have, top right, this is a school that some of us can identify with. Those of us who come from Baringo. That is like Baringo mixed secondary. Imagine that is where your child goes to school. When it floods like that, where is your child going to go to school? What do you do as a parent? Are you going to keep this child at home? Down there, we have the entrance to Lake Nakuru National Park. This is a recent photo when we had the floods. Let me begin with those two. When you watch the TVs and see a woman saying, "Serikali saidia, serikali saidia," do you ever sit back and ask yourself questions? Or you just make fun of that woman and start sending this clip around as a joke? Do you know the implication? Right now we are saying El Nino is coming. October is here, El Nino is coming. It is just a talk, El Nino is coming. Then when it comes, we are not even able to get to town because it's flooded everywhere. Are we thinking about what to put in place so that when the El Nino comes, we are prepared for it? Or we are just saying El Nino is coming, and beyond there, we are thinking about it no more. On the top left, actually, that is my shamba. I took a photo of my farm. Last year, I planted 10 acres of maize, and it was so dry, I lost everything. I looked at it and wondered, why should I put in all this effort and I'm getting nothing? We might not identify with the right bottom, but we know. We've heard of places where cows are dying, people have lost livestock, people have lost everything. Do we ever sit back and wonder, did we see this coming? When you go to the shop and say, niweke makaa mkebe moja, you take that mkebe moja, go cook, eat your food and sleep. Have you ever wondered what size of a tree was brought down and how long it had taken that tree to reach that size? The tree that was cut down, was it replaced? Even if it was replaced, how long is it going to take for that tree that has replaced that one to grow to that size and make a difference in our life? Because we know when we talk about forests, what they do to our lives, to our future, everything. Do you ever wonder, this makaa mkebe moja, where has it come from? And what kind of effect has this had on, the entire globe? Because these issues, do you even wonder where this bottle is going to end up lying? Yeah, because you take your soda, pew, it goes, you don't even want to know where it, actually, it feels so bad when you're driving. Someone just throws this and it hits your windscreen because nobody cares where we are throwing these things. And At the end of the day, they clog all our systems, they clog our water sources, they cause pollution, and we are not thinking about it, by the way. We are not even asking ourselves, what is my contribution to this? We are not thinking about it. Down there, we have someone spraying. And unfortunately, most of the sprays that we are using in our farms have been condemned elsewhere. They're poison elsewhere. But that is what we are using. And we are dying. We are not even interrogating what we are using in our farms. You know, the fertilizers we are using, we are not even interrogating what is in there. All we think about is the profit, the quantity of production, and what goes into that is not our problem. Factories, same thing. What are they doing to our future? Now, when you look at this and this, two things. They could be the cause of climate change, or they could have been caused by climate change, depending on what you're looking at. And when we talk about climate change, this is an emerging issue. We cannot run away from it. We have to talk about it. In our houses, in our classrooms, everywhere. Now, I don't know how many of us have interacted with the IPCC report, the current report of 2022, the Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change report. The 2022 version is out. I don't know how many of you have interacted with that. And what I have here are statistics from that report. I picked a few issues from the African continent because that is where we belong. And then Kenya. Why Kenya? This is our country. And this is what we know. And from the report, actually, one thing that hit me is the description they have given of the different countries. They are saying Kenya is one of the most disaster-prone country in the one of them, you know. So among those ones that are at risk, Kenya is one of them. And when they rank globally issues of different countries, Kenya ranks 6th within Africa. And then another thing that I picked from the report is that when you look at the droughts that occur, every 10 years, we're having a major drought. Every 10 years, approximately. But every 3 to 4 years, there is something happening. There could be a flood somewhere, there could be a drought somewhere, you know, consistently. And when you think about the floods, the droughts, you can't afford not to think about the economic impact this brings down to where we are. A lot of issues come up with that. And they are saying from the year 2000 to the year 2025, it's expected that our temperatures are going to rise by 2.5 degrees, you know, consistently. And you know, when it comes to issues of temperature rise, what it comes with. Unpredictable rainfalls, very, you know, in terms of the amount, the floods we are talking about. So the question is, when these things happen, when we talk about them, how do we talk about them? Are we giving them some thought? Or it's just, El Nino inakuja, wacha ikuje, and we move on. What are we? Are we engaging with the content, the information that we are getting? Now, I'm talking about sustainability. Sustainability itself has very many definitions depending on what you're looking at. And for me, I decided to adopt the Brundtland Commission definition, whereby you're looking at meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So if you're eating ugali today, ask yourself, will I be able to have this ugali tomorrow? What can I do so that when I eat this ugali, there's something left for tomorrow and for the future generations? That is the definition that I want to adopt for this presentation. And when we talk about sustainability, I want you to read about it. You cannot get all the information in one sitting. Just wonder, sustainability, and look for it. There's so much. When you talk about sustainability, sustainability has 3 pillars. There's the social pillar, there is the economic pillar, there is the environmental pillar. 3 pillars. Now, the 3 pillars form the foundation for the 17 sustainable development goals that we talk about. If you don't remember the socio-economic and environmental, just think about people, profit, and planet. You'll be talking about the same thing. Now, when you look at the sustainable goals, the 17 of them, there's so much you can talk about them.